You've been talking to yourself your entire life, but most of those words you never really heard. They slipped quietly through your mind, background noise between thoughts, until one day you started to believe them. Every limitation, every fear, every quiet, "I can't." They became the script of your life. And here you are, wondering why things feel stuck, why it seems like life has a script of its own, one you didn't choose. What if I told you that script was written by your own voice? Not the one that speaks out loud, but the one that whispers inside when no one's around. The one that tells you who you are and who you're not. Neville Goddard called it the inner conversation, the silent dialogue that shapes every corner of your reality. He said that your world is nothing more than the echo of your most consistent thoughts, the echo of your self-talk. And yet, you never question it, do you? You hear your voice say, "I'm tired," and you agree. You hear it say, "I'll never get there," and you nod almost unconsciously. You hear it whisper, "I'm not enough," and your body believes it instantly. But what if that voice isn't truth? What if it's just habit, a program you inherited, repeated and reinforced? Think about it. How many times today did you tell yourself something negative without even noticing? 10, 20, 50. And each time that voice wasn't describing reality, it was creating it. You see, reality doesn't start out there. It begins here, in the unseen conversation between you and yourself, the one that plays on repeat when you're quiet, driving, scrolling, trying to fall asleep. That's the true creation zone, and you've been creating all along, just not consciously. So here's what's going to happen. For the next hour, you're going to learn how to speak differently to yourself. You're going to see, feel, and experience what happens when your inner words shift. Because when they do, your entire world, relationships, finances, emotions, energy, begins to bend toward the new tone you set. You might doubt it at first. That's okay. Doubt is just the echo of the old voice trying to keep its place. But stay with me. Something inside you, deeper than logic, older than memory, already knows this truth. You've always had the power to change your world by changing your words. You've just forgotten how to use it. This isn't about pretending. It's not about empty affirmations or fake positivity. It's about a new identity that speaks through you. A voice of certainty, of peace, of quiet authority. You'll hear that voice again soon, and when you do, something will shift inside you, permanently. Because here's the secret no one ever told you. You don't speak to reality. Reality listens to you. And for the next 3 days, starting now, reality will start to listen differently. So breathe. Get quiet. Listen closely to your own thoughts. Because the voice you're about to awaken will change everything. You wake up and for a brief second, everything feels blank. Before memory floods back. Before the list of worries, tasks, and expectations fills your head, that tiny pause, that silence right before thought is your doorway, and this time you're aware of it. You remember the challenge. For 3 days, you'll speak to yourself differently. It sounds simple, right? Almost too simple. But as soon as you begin, you realize how much noise lives inside you. You catch the first thought, "I'm so tired." But instead of agreeing, you pause, you breathe, and quietly you replace it. "I'm refreshed. My energy is building." It feels strange at first, artificial, like wearing someone else's clothes, but you do it anyway. You go to make coffee and a small frustration rises, maybe a spill, maybe a delay. Normally you'd sigh, complain, or think, "Of course." It's one of those mornings, but not today. Today you say, "Everything is working for me." And something subtle happens. The moment passes faster. The irritation dissolves. You move on, lighter. That's how it starts, not with lightning, but with whispers. You begin to notice how much of your day is spent in silent contradiction. Your body wants rest, but your mind argues. Your heart feels ready, but your voice says, "Not yet." This awareness, uncomfortable as it is power. Because you can't change what you can't hear, and now you hear everything. By mid-morning, the resistance kicks in. Your old voice starts fighting back. It says, "This is silly." It says, "Nothing's changing." It says, "You've tried things like this before." You listen, not as a victim, but as an observer. And for the first time, you don't argue. You smile, because now you understand what's really happening. That old voice is dying, and it won't go quietly, so you keep going. Each time the thought appears, you answer it with calm authority. I decide what's true for me. Everything is unfolding perfectly. I am already becoming the version of myself I once imagined. And though the outer world looks the same, something within you shifts. You walk differently. You look at people differently. You even breathe differently. That night, before sleep, you catch yourself replaying the day. Normally, you dwell on what went wrong. But tonight, you ask a new question. What did I do right? And the answers come gently. Moments of kindness, patience, courage. You feel something loosen in your chest, something you hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. Because now, for the first time, your words aren't fighting you, they're building you. You're beginning to realize that inner speech isn't just thought, it's energy, direction, command. Every phrase you repeat is a brushstroke painting the next version of your life. And tonight, as you drift to sleep, you whisper softly to yourself, "Tomorrow will reveal what I'm creating now." And it will. Because once you start speaking with intention, reality starts to rearrange itself to match your tone. This is only day one, and already the universe has begun to listen. You wake up thinking the hardest part is behind you. After all, yesterday felt like progress. You noticed your thoughts, you changed them, you felt lighter. But today, something's different. It begins almost immediately. Before your feet even touch the ground, the old voice returns, sharper, louder, relentless. It says, "You really think saying new words will change anything?" It laughs quietly. It reminds you of every failed attempt, every disappointment, every moment you gave up before. You try to push it away, but the more you resist, the stronger it gets. That's when you remember. This is what Neville meant by persistence, not blind repetition, not forcing belief, but standing still while the storm of your old identity tries to pull you back. You take a deep breath. You don't argue. You simply say, "I hear you, but I don't believe you anymore." That's the first victory of day two, realizing you don't have to silence the voice. You only have to stop agreeing with it. As you move through your morning, the challenges multiply. Traffic slows you down. A message brings bad news. Someone says something that hits a sore spot. And that inner dialogue starts whispering again, "See, nothing's changing." But this time, you see the pattern clearly. The world isn't fighting you, it's mirroring you. It's showing you the residue of yesterday's thoughts. And for the first time, you don't collapse into reaction. You pause. You breathe, and you choose a different response. You say, "I remain unmoved." You say, "This is just the echo of who I was, not who I am becoming." The day goes on like that, a quiet battle between two selves, one built on memory, the other built on imagination. And you start to realize something profound. You've lived most of your life inside a conversation you never questioned, a conversation where you were small, limited, unsure, and every emotion, every event, every coincidence simply confirmed that version of you. Now, you're rewriting the dialogue, and the old script, terrified of disappearing, is fighting for its life. It's subtle, but powerful. You'll feel waves of doubt for no reason. You'll question your worth, your timing, your choices, not because you're failing, but because you're evolving. The old self always screams loudest right before it dissolves. By afternoon, something unexpected happens. You stop trying to be positive. You stop trying to control every thought. You just observe, and that observation, calm, detached, Aware becomes your superpower. You notice a thought like, "I'm not enough." And instead of fighting it, you answer gently, "Maybe that was true once, but not anymore." The tension breaks, the energy shifts. You start to feel space in your mind, like the air right after a storm. In that space, a new tone begins to rise, quiet, confident, loving. It says, "You're doing it. You're changing. Keep going." You don't know where that voice came from, but it feels familiar, as if it was always there, just waiting for silence to be heard. That night before bed, you realize something powerful. You're not fighting your thoughts anymore. You're teaching them how to speak differently. And the moment that sinks in, you understand that creation isn't a battle between light and dark. It's a conversation between belief and possibility. You smile quietly to yourself. Day 2 is almost over. And though you've felt resistance, you've also felt awakening. You've tasted what it means to stand still while everything old tries to fall away. As you close your eyes, you whisper, "Tomorrow I won't fight, I'll flow." And for the first time, sleep comes easily. Not because the noise is gone, but because now you know how to listen without losing yourself. Tomorrow will bring something new. The echo is fading. The voice of your new self is learning how to speak. You open your eyes on the third morning and feel it before you think it. Something lighter. Not quite peace, not quite joy, but a quiet space where fear used to live. For a moment you don't rush to name it, you just breathe. And in that breath you notice how still your mind feels. Not silent, still, like a lake after the wind has stopped. The first thought of the day isn't an attack, it's a whisper. You're getting it. You smile, not out of pride, but recognition. This feeling, this clarity, is the beginning of creation. Neville called it living in the end. You are no longer trying to change the outer world. You're beginning to become the new world from within. You move through your morning and small things start to stand out. The light hits differently. A stranger smiles. A problem that usually frustrates you suddenly feels unimportant. You catch yourself laughing softly for no reason at all. It's not luck, it's feedback. Reality is responding to your new tone. All along you thought manifestation was about force, about saying the right words, visualizing hard enough, doing more. But today you feel something deeper. The power isn't in effort, it's in allowing. When your inner voice softens, the outer world follows. When you stop arguing with life, life stops arguing with you. You begin to see how every event, even the painful ones, were teachers in disguise. They showed you the echo of the old dialogue. They mirrored the way you once spoke to yourself. And now, those echoes are fading. Every kind word you've said inwardly has planted a seed outwardly, and you can already sense them sprouting. By midday, synchronicities begin to appear. A message arrives at just the right time. An opportunity you thought was lost reopens. Someone mentions something you were quietly imagining the day before. Coincidence? Maybe. But you know better now. Reality isn't random. It's responsive, it's listening. And today, it's listening to a very different voice. You start speaking with intention, not to convince yourself, but to express who you already know you are. I am guided. I am protected. I am abundant. And each time you say it, you don't reach for proof. You feel it as already true. The difference is subtle but enormous. Before you spoke to fix the world. Now you speak from completion. And that shift from wanting to being is where miracles happen. In the afternoon, something unexpected occurs. You face a familiar challenge, maybe an argument, maybe a delay, the kind of thing that once spiraled you into frustration, but this time you remain calm. You watch it unfold as if it's happening in slow motion, and deep down, a quiet realization blooms. You no longer react from the wound, you respond from awareness. That's the real manifestation, not money, not love, not status, freedom. By evening, the sky feels different. Colors seem deeper, sounds more alive. You're not escaping reality. You're finally seeing it clearly, because now your perception isn't filtered by fear. Before sleep, you think about the past 3 days. You remember the noise, the resistance, the doubt, and you smile again, because you see what all of it meant. Every thought that once attacked you was just a part of you asking to be healed. Every argument, every moment of pain was simply life saying, listen, you're ready to remember who you are. And tonight, you do remember. You're not the voice of fear. You're not the story of limitation. You're the awareness that speaks worlds into being. So you whisper, it is done. Not as a command, as a recognition. Because it is done. The shift has already happened. And tomorrow, the world will begin to rearrange itself around the new tone of your being. You close your eyes. The silence inside you hums with power. And somewhere in that stillness, reality listens and starts to move. You wake up, and for the first time in years, you don't feel the need to fix anything. You don't rush to affirm or correct your thoughts. You simply are. Something inside you has clicked into place. Not loudly, not dramatically, but unmistakably. It's a quiet certainty that doesn't need proof. A calm knowing that the invisible is already working in your favor. You walk through your morning differently. You're not waiting for results. You're watching them unfold. The people you meet seem softer. Conversations flow. Situations that once drained you now pass through you effortlessly. You start to realize the world hasn't changed. You have. And because you have, everything around you must follow. This is the law you've been living without knowing it. The law of reflection. Every event, every face, every coincidence is your inner dialogue taking shape. What once felt like opposition now feels like communication. The universe is talking back to you in your own tone of voice. You notice small things first. The traffic clears at just the right time. You think of someone and they call. A problem resolves itself before you even have to act. These are not accidents, they're confirmations. Gentle nods from reality saying, yes, I heard you. And the more you notice them, the faster they come, not because you're trying harder, but because you're finally aligned with the frequency of receiving. You begin to understand something profound. You were never manifesting things, you were manifesting states. And now that your state has shifted, the things simply appear as natural expressions of it. It's like tuning a radio. The signal was always there, abundance, peace, love. But you couldn't hear it through the static of your old self-talk. Now the static is gone. Now you're in rhythm with creation. By the second or third day after the shift, your old triggers show up again, testing you, but you don't fall this time. You recognize them for what they are, memories of vibration, echoes, not enemies. They don't belong to this new voice anymore. You respond gently, thank you for reminding me how far I've come. And just like that, the trigger loses power. Because acknowledgement, not resistance, dissolves the past. In moments of quiet, you start to feel gratitude rise, not for what has changed, but for what always was. For the intelligence that has been guiding you since the beginning. For the patience of your own consciousness, waiting for you to wake up and listen. You begin to see how even the darkest seasons had a purpose, how every heartbreak, every delay, every mistake was carving space for this version of you to emerge. Nothing was wasted. Every word you once spoke, even in pain, brought you here, to this awareness, this softness, this power. Now you see the real miracle. It's not that you've learned to speak new words. It's that you've learned to speak from a new being. That's why things respond differently. That's why peace feels natural now, not forced. You're no longer repeating affirmations. You're remembering truth. And when you live from truth, the world can't help but rearrange itself around you. By nightfall, you stand quietly somewhere, maybe at your window, maybe under the sky, and you sense it again. The mirror, everything glowing back at you. Every sound, every color, every motion, a reflection of your own state of consciousness. You whisper into the stillness, "I see you." And the stillness seems to whisper back, "And I've always seen you." You realize you were never separate from your creation. The listener and the speaker were always one. You've just remembered the harmony. The days after the shift are not about proving anything. They're about embodying what you now know. And what you know is simple. When you speak to yourself with love, the universe speaks the same language. So you let go. You stop trying to control the conversation. You simply live it. And the more you live it, the more it lives through you. Because now, everything, absolutely everything, is speaking back. You notice it first in the smallest ways, a tone in someone's voice, a smile that wasn't there before, a decision that flows instead of forces. At first, you think it's coincidence. But soon, you can feel it. Life is talking back. Every word you've spoken inwardly, every quiet affirmation, every moment you refuse to return to the old voice, it's echoing now. Reality has begun to answer. You meet someone who reflects your new calm. An opportunity you thought was gone returns effortlessly. The timing of things becomes almost perfect, not because you're lucky, but because you're aligned. For the first time, you understand what it means to be in rhythm with the unseen. You're not chasing manifestations anymore. They're arriving like guests who were always invited, and they arrive right on time. You start to feel an awareness forming that every event in your life is a mirror conversation between you and the universe. When you speak with fear, the world echoes fear. When you speak with certainty, it answers with clarity. When you speak with love, it rushes to meet you in kind. It's not magic, it's reflection. The truest law of creation. You don't get what you want, you get what you are. You notice that old patterns don't pull you down anymore. They rise like ghosts, but you no longer feed them words. You simply observe, and they dissolve on their own. This is what mastery feels like. Quiet, unhurried, certain. You're not forcing faith. You are faith. People begin to respond to you differently, though they can't explain why. They sense it, that grounded presence, that silent confidence. Your energy has texture now. It communicates before you even speak. Someone might say, "You seem different," and you'll smile because how could they possibly know? They're seeing the reflection of a voice you've only just begun to trust. The old you would rush to explain. The new you simply lives it. You start to realize that every desire you've ever had was never about the thing itself. It was about how you wanted to feel. Safe, seen, powerful, free. And now you feel it without needing anything to change. That's the paradox. Once you no longer need it, it comes. You see, reality doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to completion. When you live as if it's already done, it has no choice but to match you. So you walk slower, you listen more. You no longer hurry the process because you've seen what happens when you trust it. A few days later, you find yourself remembering old pain, not to relive it, but to release it. You whisper forgiveness, not just to others, but to yourself. For every time you believed the wrong voice, for every time you spoke against your own worth, you forgive yourself for forgetting. And with that forgiveness comes space, vast, quiet, luminous space. It fills every part of you where guilt once lived. And in that space, something magnificent begins to grow. Peace without cause. The kind of peace that doesn't depend on what happens next. The kind that simply is. You begin to laugh more, to move with ease, to feel at home inside your own being. That's the echo of the new self, not an achievement but a natural state. Life has learned your new language, and now it's fluent. You say, "I am guided," and things align. You say, "I am loved," and love finds its way in. You say nothing at all, and still, everything responds. Because the most powerful words are no longer spoken, they're embodied. By nightfall, you understand something that can't be unlearned. You're no longer searching for proof. You are the proof. You are the living demonstration of your own imagination made visible. And as you close your eyes, one thought drifts gently through your mind, not as a command, but as a remembrance. Everything I speak within becomes everything I see without. You finally understand. You never had to make the world listen. You only had to remember that it already was. You used to wake up searching for signs. Now you wake up as the sign, that subtle, grounded peace that fills your chest. That's the evidence, that quiet certainty when you move through your day. That's the miracle. The outer world no longer feels like something to manage or decode. It feels like a language you understand, a rhythm you recognize, and you realize. This is what it means to have returned to yourself. You're no longer trying to manifest a better life. You're living from the awareness that you already have one. You walk through the same streets, talk to the same people, see the same sky, but everything has shifted because you have shifted. The lens is clean now. The old dust of self-doubt is gone, and reality reflects back the clarity of your new perception. You no longer rush, you no longer chase, because you've seen that what you used to chase was never running from you. It was waiting for you to slow down and align. You find yourself smiling for no reason, not the forced smile of pretending, but the easy smile of remembering. You know deep down that you've returned to your original tone, the tone of love, the tone of certainty, the tone of I am. And now, every word you speak carries weight. Not the weight of effort, but the gravity of truth. When you say I am, it lands, it moves things, because it's no longer empty sound. It's backed by being. You start to understand that there was never a separation between you and life. There was only a misunderstanding, a belief that you were something smaller than the voice that speaks worlds into motion. But now, that illusion has dissolved. You see clearly. You were never becoming anything. You were only remembering. The return isn't dramatic. It's gentle, almost invisible. It happens when you forgive yourself, when you stop trying to prove your worth, when you breathe and simply say, I'm already here. You find yourself doing everything with new awareness, pouring coffee, answering emails, walking outside. And each action feels sacred because it's no longer mechanical. It's presence expressing itself through form. People start to notice they don't know what changed. They just feel calmer when you speak, lighter when you're near. They start to mirror your peace because peace is contagious when it's real. And you realize the true purpose of all this was never just about you. It was about what moves through you. The world doesn't need another person chasing outcomes. It needs more people who remember who they are. People who speak from love, not fear. From being, not lack. You're one of them now. You're not just changing your life. You're changing the atmosphere around you, word by word, presence by presence. You've become what Neville called the awakened imagination. The dreamer who knows they're dreaming and therefore can dream on purpose. That's the return, not to the past, but to the origin, the awareness that creates, the consciousness that imagines, the love that sustains it all. As night falls, you stand quietly, perhaps near a window or beneath an open sky. You look at the world, not to ask for anything, but to give thanks, because everything you see out there is you, answered. You whisper, I speak only from love now, and the air seems to listen. The silence itself feels alive. It's as if reality takes a deep breath with you and exhales peace. You realize you're no longer doing the practice. You are the practice. You're living proof of the voice that became form. And as the final thought of the day drifts softly across your mind, it isn't a request or an affirmation. It's simply the truth. I am that I am. And in that knowing, the circle completes itself. You've come home. You've remembered the voice. You've remembered the power. You've remembered you. You've reached the quiet after the journey. No more steps, no more trying. Just silence, alive, aware, full of everything you've become. You can feel it now, can't you? That subtle hum beneath your thoughts. It's not just calm, it's creation. It's the vibration of your own being, speaking even when you say nothing. You understand now why Neville said imagination is reality, because you've lived it. You've watched your thoughts turn into moments, your words turn into evidence, your silence turn into peace. You thought you were learning how to speak to yourself differently, but what really happened is that you learned how to listen. You began to hear the tone of love that was always whispering underneath the noise. You discovered that the power you were searching for wasn't somewhere out there. It was in the pause between your own sentences. That pause, this pause, is sacred. It's where everything begins. You no longer ask, will it happen? You simply know, because it's already happening, because you're already it. Look around you. Nothing has changed, and yet everything has. The same world, but with a new narrator. The same canvas. But now, the artist remembers the brush is in their own hand. This is the stillness Neville called the Sabbath of the soul. It's not the end of creation. It's the rest that follows, knowing it is finished. You've entered that rest. You've become it. And now, your words are no longer requests, they're blessings. Each thought a quiet command, each feeling a seed that must bloom. You don't need to rush back to practice, you don't need to repeat anything. You've already become the thing you once tried to manifest. Let that settle, let that truth sink deep into the spaces that once held doubt. Every breath from here on is a new affirmation, not spoken, but lived. When you walk, you speak. When you smile, you speak. When you forgive, you speak. The universe continues to echo back the tone of who you've decided to be. So keep walking gently, keep thinking kindly, keep listening inwardly, because the most beautiful part of this whole journey isn't that life listens to you. It's that now you listen back. You've come full circle, from noise to silence, from wanting to knowing, from separation to unity. This is your new beginning. Every word you think from this moment on is creation in motion. And everything that answers you will speak in the language of your new self. So whisper once more, not as practice, but as truth. I am already all that I seek. And in the stillness that follows, you feel it, the quiet applause of the universe answering, yes, you are.